So about a week or two ago, I was on about like a 4 or 5 person commercial shoot, and we were shooting with a red Gemini, which looked absolutely amazing. We had an inspired drone up in the mountains, which was absolutely beautiful. And on that shoot, I ended up meeting a filmmaker that just moved out here, I think from either Florida or LA. And he was just spending some time with his family over the next couple months. And he was like, hey, I have a Canon C200. If you want, let's connect after the shoot and you can mess around with the C200. And he was also selling it, which got me even more excited because I've been looking at getting one of these for about the last 6 to 7 months. And let's just say my first impressions were absolutely phenomenal. So what you just saw there was a couple shoots that we got to take at a cafe that we met up at. And the good thing about that footage was I was shooting in nearly direct sunlight, which was kind of what I was hoping to do because I kind of wanted to test how the camera handles highlights, being overexposed, and kind of how it handles shadows at the same time. And I absolutely love the footage that came out of this camera. And so to jump in on the 3 things that I absolutely loved about the camera, number 1 would be the ergonomics. The ergonomics of the C200 are absolutely just beautiful and a pleasure to hold. I've shot Canon for quite some time, and I think Canon does a really good job with their ergonomics, and the C200 just does not disappoint on that front. It's a small, nice, compact body, isn't overly heavy. It just sits so nicely in your hand, and then if you have that grip on the side, it just works so perfectly. Coming from somebody who has shot on the Red Raven, which is a little bit more of a clunkier, boxy feel, the C200 just felt like a small little toy, but at the same time it had a nice bulk to it that was very comfortable to when onto. And so I love that. And also considering the fact that it has built-in ND filters was such a game changer. Especially when we're shooting inside the cafe, we're shooting out towards the window where it was super bright. And then if you turn around and you shot towards the inside of the building, now you're getting a much more drastic transition in your lighting. And all I had to do was just hit the side button to drop those ND filters out of the way, and all of a sudden now you have a well exposed shot. And just that simplicity I've realized was such a benefit. So number 2, I loved the dynamic range, but also not just the dynamic range of the camera. I loved how it was processing the highlights and the shadows, especially when we're shooting Chihadi's face in comparison with the background. Just the shadow under his jawline, in his hair, but also the highlights outside the window. Like the way it processed that imagery, the way it processed the shadows on the building in comparison to a very exposed and highlight heavy parts of the image. Especially if you were to shoot that same footage on a mirrorless camera or a DSLR camera, what you'll notice is very kind of blown out, harsh highlights. The C200 did a beautiful job containing those parts of the image, but also giving them a nice smooth roll off that looked cinematic. And number 3, I'd have to go with the 12-bit RAW and the C200 color science. Pairing those two together is just such a pleasure to work with in post-production. I went ahead and threw that into Final Cut Pro, and with very little correction, grading, I was able to get a very beautiful looking image fairly quickly without too much of a hassle. And not only that, it's one thing to have beautiful color science straight out of the body, which I think the C200 has. Paired with the 12-bit RAW allows you to push and pull the colors so well and easily without seeing too much banding, insane amount of color noise. It just handles the colors and the grades so well. I really enjoyed working with a little bit of the footage from the C200. And there's a lot of other things that I didn't mention, like the autofocus on a cinema camera that works pretty well, that tracks the face pretty well. Yeah, it was just honestly just such a pleasant experience to work with, and especially since it was my first time actually handling the C200 and shooting with it, it was a very easy thing to kind of jump on and adapt to. Like, there wasn't that much of a steep learning curve. So yeah, shout out to Jihadi for letting me use some of his footage and also being the beautiful model in this little test footage. I think you did a beautiful job, wouldn't you say so? In the comment section below, let me know if you have had any experience using a C200 or are curious about it. Subscribe if you want to stay tuned. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one, y'all.